Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Why you don't want to see $3,000 silver. This is an article from Silver Doctors that was sent to me by Silver Encrusted, a viewer of the channel. And it's entitled, Why $3,000 Gold and $3,000 Silver Are Not Unrealistic Targets. Well, I disagree with that, but we'll take a look here at the article and talk about why I think you don't want to see these numbers for gold or silver. Once a real move starts, it will be very difficult to get a hold of gold at any price. At some point, there will be no physical gold on offer. This is from Egon von Geyers of Gold, Switzerland. The world financial system has been a euphoric state since 2009. It seems that the Keynesians, like Krugman and the modern money theorists, are right after all. All assets markets are near the highs and show little signs of changing direction. As Secretary of the Treasury Mellon said in September 1929, there's no cause for worry. The high tide of prosperity will continue. All that is required is more of the same medicine, more credit, more money printing to make a virtuous circle of eternal prosperity. And though the situation in 1929 is much different than it is today, and the country is healthier today, I think there's a lot of reasons why I don't think it'll happen the way that some people think it will. Some of the doom and gloomers out there, but nonetheless will continue. And he talks about how the party is over here down in the article, down here further. He says, sadly for the world, Cassandra will be right this time, and also since the party is over, the time bomb below says it all. Contained in the red bomb are all the explosive elements that will change the history of the world. Any single one of these risks is sufficient to trigger a collapse of the world economy. The combined explosive nature of all these risks will not only disprove MMT, but also create a world which will be a lot less pleasant to live in. So let's take a look at these. These are a lot of things that we talked about, certainly that can affect precious metal prices. Certainly we've got things that talk about geopolitics here. We've got UK, Brexit, Italy, Greece, Japan. It's known as a BRICS nation. We have trade wars, social unrest, civil wars, war in general, financial systems, mortgage, consumer debt. It's just any number of things in here that can cause a, massive shift in economic health of any one nation and all nations. The cleansing of a sick financial system and the morally decadent world will be totally necessary to create a new green shoots based on real sustainable values. But the transition will create great suffering for the whole world. And that's kind of another area where I do kind of disagree. As complex and as many scary things that are going on in the world today, there's been other scary things that have happened in the world since 1929 for sure. World War II, the New Deal, Vietnam, the threat of communism, a myriad of different things. You have to look through the course of history, and you have to also look and see how resilient, really, in a sense, we are, especially in the Western world, but even more especially the United States of America. And that's why you should you should be very afraid of $3,000 silver and $30,000 gold. He says in bold here, the countries normally get the leaders they deserve. The world is in desperate need of a statesman who can take uncomfortable decisions to get the world out of the means it's in. Well, you don't even need a statesman. You just need somebody who will do it. Typically a statesman is somebody who is considered very polite and on par and strong. But, many people would say that Trump is not very polite, but he is a leader. And so, is going to see where things go. And even he is kind of falling into some of the spending traps that's known as the deep state have been throwing at us. And he talks about other world leaders here and about the Deutsche Bank when they collapse. will have repercussions not only for German banks, but also the global banking system. And if you look back, this talking about other kinds of things that occur with the in other nations and with financial institutions. And we remember the financial collapse of 2007, 2008. It was a very scary time. Could have been very bad, but we pulled through it. And some of the reasons why we pulled through it were some of the wrong reasons to do so, quantitative easing being one of those. You throw money at a problem, it only acts as a band-aid. It doesn't fix the solution behind it. But nonetheless, we're going to go through and see what happens in the coming months and years. But this goes on to talk about debt. And it's that debt which derives from deficit spending in these nations. And, the author makes a good point that global debt is up 3 times since 2000. And the great financial crisis started in 2006. Global debt had gone up by 56% to 125 trillion. Today, it is 250 trillion for the world global debt there. And so it's a scary situation. He moves on here and talks about $30,000 gold and $3,000 silver. The Krugmans and MMT fans will now get more than they are ever asked for because the world will soon start the biggest money printing bonanza in history. Bearing in mind that total debt and liabilities, including derivatives, are over $2 quadrillion. We could easily see similar or higher amounts of money printing. A recent KWN article by Lundstein projects $3,000 silver and $30,000 gold. There's not unrealistic targets and are probably based on normal inflation. With hyperinflation, the future gold price is likely to have many more zeros. And, I don't know. To me, it's, depending on how you measure the metrics of such an amount, if you believe in massive, manipulation of the markets and the like, but that's still very scary numbers. To me, that does match hyperinflation or massive inflation. And you think about it, I don't think we'll get to that point in a sense because, the bankers, the people in charge, the powers that be, so to speak, they understand about situations where there's hyperinflation. We're seeing it today in Venezuela. And they also know the breaking point. They know kicking the can down the road at least will last for, there's enough road for it to be kicked down. And that's really the bottom line with all of this. And I do believe that there probably is something going on, like a Bretton Woods type situation. Bretton Woods was created essentially out of a crisis, as was taking us off the gold standard in 1971. And Kissinger sealed the petrodollar in 1973. And you think about it, all these Western nations, as much trouble as they may be in some ways, there's enough cushion out there that I don't think people realize that's there. We don't want to believe it because of how foolish, our governments act, with this massive printing and these huge problems and crises. Many of these crises basically really are started by government. There's a level of incompetence there, but there's also another. I think there's a sustainability, and that sustainability, basically, we're living off the prosperity that we've seen before all of this happened, and there was a lot of prosperity, and we're making some inroads back in the right direction. It's just that we're still spending more, especially in this country. Other nations I really can't speak for, but really there's a lot of problems, and I don't want to minimize those problems by any means. But at the same time, I do believe that if we see $3,000 silver and $30,000 gold, we're going to be in a world of hurt. I'm not sure where they get their data about how that's based off of normal inflation. Probably based on normal inflation. It'd be kind of interesting to see. But the thing is that, it's going to be it's going to be a long road, I think, in the coming years, especially as governments move towards systems of government which steer away from the free market. And that's something to be concerned about. And I think if we do go down that road long enough, we will see huge problems. And we will see a declining economy. And but nonetheless, if we get to $3,000 silver and $30,000 gold, we're in a world of hurt. And keep in mind that this article here was written by somebody who sells gold. So take that for a grain of salt. And but at the same time, we'll see how it all plays out. Post your thoughts below. I would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching and encourage you to please rate, comment, and subscribe.